Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 8th International Thematic Roundtable. My name is Veronica Onrubia, and I'm part from the organizing team at the University of Alicante. I would like to inform you that Professor Rosabel Roch-Vila, Director of the UNESCO Chair, is unable to attend today's session due to an urgent meeting at the university, but she wants to transmit us some words.
Good afternoon. Let me introduce myself. I am Rosabel Roch, Director of the UNESCO Chair in Education, Research and Digital Inclusion. And unfortunately, I cannot join you synchronously due to an inflorescence committee at my university. That is why I wanted to record this video to sincerely thank them for their participation today in this interesting activity organized by this chair, together with Professor Chinenye Amayoye of Nnamdi Azikiwe University and other colleagues. It is a real honor and a great pleasure to welcome you today, 8th April, to this 8th International Thematic Roundtable entitled Reimagining Education for a Peaceful and Prosperous Future, the intersection of technology, economic empowerment, and conflict resolution in combating educational crises among young people in southern Nigeria. This activity aims to be a space for shared reflection on a topic that is as complex as it is urgent to address. At the UNESCO Chair, we start from the conviction that education is not only a fundamental right, but also a powerful tool for building peace, social cohesion, and sustainable development. This roundtable brings together two diverse and distinguished group of speakers and participants to analyze how education can act as a strategic bridge between innovation, equity, and conflict resolution, especially in contexts marked by inequality, insecurity, and marginalization. By focusing today on southern Nigeria, we seek to better understand a local reality that, nevertheless, connects deeply with global debates on inclusion, digital transformation, and youth empowerment. Sorry for my English. With these words, I officially declare to the 8th International Thematic Roundtable open. Thank you very much, and I wish you an inspiring and fruitful day.
So, as Rosabel has said before, the roundtable will be coordinated by Professor Chinenye Amaonye, and we thank her sincerely for taking this important role. During the session, we will share a link to the attendance form in the YouTube live chat. If you would like to receive a certificate of attendance, please you need to fill out this form. Make sure you write your full name and your email address correctly. Please note that the form will be closed at the end of the session. You are also welcome to ask questions in the YouTube chat during the session, and then these questions may be addressed by the speakers at the end if we have enough time. Thank you all for joining us to this important academic event. And now I invite Professor Chinenye to begin the roundtable. Thank you. So please, Chinenye, when you're ready, feel free to start with the coordination.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Roosevelt, for that wonderful introduction. And of course, for the wonderful work you do with the UNESCO Chair of Education, Research, and Digital Inclusion, University of Alicante, Spain, which you direct, and is doing for the project being the 8th International Thematic Roundtable, Spaces of Knowledge, in collaboration with the Faculty of Education, Namdazikiwe University, Oka, Nigeria. I'd like to thank all the participants who have joined us from all parts of the country, Nigeria in particular, in Spain and the rest of the world. And like she said, today we shall be examining the critical issue in education. That is, how the intersection of technology, economic empowerment, and conflict resolution can be deployed in combating educational crisis to ensure a peaceful and, of course, a prosperous future, particularly for the young ones in Nigeria. And to discuss this with me are seasoned academics and administrators in the field of education. First, I have Professor Ngozi Ikeria Anyikwa, who is a distinguished scholar and educator specializing in guidance and counseling. She's the national president of the Association for Childhood Educators Nigeria, and of course the director of Affiliate Institute, Nnamdi Azikiwe University of Accra. Her leadership roles span across many spectrum in the university administration. And of course, she has served as a commissioner for Ministry of Planning and Economic Development and Public Utility and Rural Development in Imo State, Nigeria. In addition, she represented the Senate in the 8th University Governing Council and served as a consultant for the World Bank Country Office, Abuja, Nigeria. Her expertise and contributions to education and social development are highly respected. We welcome you, Professor Anyokwan. Then we also have Professor Ondie. I'm guessing he's here to join us. Professor Ondie is a cerebral professor of educational administration and planning in the University of Calabar with research interest in economics and finance of public education, as well as politics of education. With over 23 years of teaching experience, Professor Ondi has served as a visiting lecturer to many universities in Nigeria. He has also served in various capacities, including head of department, director of academic planning, NUC accreditation, among others. He is the national president of the Association of Educational Management and Policy Practitioners. He has published widely in international and national reputable journals. Professor Ndia is married with children. Then we have with us also Associate Professor Kingsley Chinazanwozu. He is an educational psychologist with a strong research focus on optimizing the learning potential of children with disabilities, underprivileged backgrounds, and with focus on adolescent mental well-being, the psychology of disability, and psychopedagogy. His work as a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Free State focused on diversity in higher education within the South Africa context. He has served also as a member advisory board for the Transformation Strategic Group of Universities in South Africa and has participated as an active member of Nnamdi Azikiwe University team for Tuning Africa 2 project in 2017 and of course in partnership with Africa EU. Also, I have with me Dr. Christy Odumengu. She is a renowned independent social and educational research consultant and a chief executive officer of Chris Harris Research and Educational Services. She holds a Master's of Research degree in Social and Educational Research from the University of London and her PhD in Educational Management from the University of South Africa. Dr. Odumegu has authored several articles and book chapters. She has consulted for both national and international organizations. She specializes in research methodology, internal quality assurance, and educational management. For over 12 years, Dr. Christy Odumegwu has been training students, early research, career researchers, and tenure scholars in Nigeria, United Kingdom, USA, and of course Canada on research at Crises, Harris Education Services, through circles of research workshops. And again, I have Dr. Obin Alonso, an acronym. He is an associate professor at Nnamdi University, Nigeria. His expertise included educational planning, quality assurance, and policy development. With over 12 years of experience, he has published numerous papers in reputable journals, contributing to educational development and discourse. Dr. Nachnam is passionate about shaping educational policy to enhance learning outcomes and societal impact. He holds various leadership roles, including member of University Senate, Vice Chancellor's Committee on Student Industrial Work Experience, (CIWIS), Vice Chairman of Media and Strategic Communication, and of course, he's the Chairman Editor-in-Chief of UNIZIC Journal of Educational Management and Policy. His work focuses on improving educational outcomes and practices. I sincerely want to welcome all our speakers to the 8th thematic roundtable discussion. And with this, we begin our upon Professor Ngozi Ayifa for her presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Chinenye, and the rest of us. The title of my presentation today is Rethinking Education for Self-Reliance and Empowerment Among Southern Nigerian Youths. By way of introduction, Nigeria's youth is at a critical crossroad. They are faced with a lot of challenges. Their population is enormous, but they are constrained by systemic barriers. And the question is, how can we evolve our education system to truly empower them to be self-reliant and economically empowered? And I am thinking that we must rethink our education and go beyond certificates to competence. Because most of our educational system, from primary to the university level, focuses on certification and not skill acquisition, entrepreneurship, or critical thinking skills, as the case may be, including vocational skills and so on and so forth. So it's important that we align our education to suit today's economic realities. Youth ordinarily should be equipped to solve problems, create jobs, and lead change. Education is the most effective catalyst for empowerment and self-reliance. Let's look at the structure of Nigerian education system. We have three levels of education in Nigeria. The first is the basic education, which runs for 9 years. Primary school, 6 years, then junior secondary school, 3 years. We also have the post-basic senior secondary education, which again runs for 3 years. And they do core courses, which include English language, general mathematics, civic education, and trade or any entrepreneurship subject from a list of 35 trade and entrepreneurship options. Students, having chosen the core subjects, are also expected to choose additional elective subjects that is related to their interests and career aspirations. Again, we have, under the secondary education, we have the vocational technical education, which is also a part of secondary education, so to speak, in quotes. Here, they offer technical and vocational education as an alternative to traditional senior secondary education, and it prepares students for specific trades or skills in technical education. Then the last one, which is the third one, is the tertiary education, which could last for 2 years, 3 years, 4 and 6 years. And this is because tertiary education runs through, we have university system where students can obtain first degree, second degree, which is a master's degree, and a PhD. We also have the polytechnics, where students obtain national diploma and higher national diploma. If they stop at national diploma, it runs for 2 years. If they move on to higher national diploma, it's a 4-year program. Then we have the College of Education, where students obtain National Certificate of Education, and it's a program that runs for 3 years. Now let's look at the challenges we have in our educational system. I think the first thing we have and we need to deal with is the high number of out-of-school children in Nigeria. According to UNICEF 2024, Nigeria has about 18.3 million children that are not in school, 10.2 million at primary school level, and 8.1 million at secondary school level. Then the next challenge that we have, of course, this poses a great deal of challenge for Nigeria, and it's also a minus for our development and growth. Then the next is inadequate funding. Nigeria has consistently fallen short of UNESCO's recommendation of allocating 15 to 20% of the national budget to education. And of course, as we know, inadequate budgetary allocation results in poor infrastructure, lack of learning materials, and low teacher salaries. The highest budgetary allocation we've had so far in the last 10 years was 10.7%, and that was in 2015. Lowest is in 2021, which is put at 5.6%, and then 7.9% in 2024, which is a bit of increase, but is not yet anywhere near the UNESCO recommendation. Then the next issue we have in our education, which is part of the crisis we have, is curriculum relevance. The curriculum we run at the moment lacks relevance to the needs of the labor market and the skills required for self-reliance. It does not equip graduates with the skills needed for the job market. Neither does it even equip them for skills to even employ themselves or start up anything by themselves. The next issue is poor infrastructure. Like we said earlier, because of the poor funding, many schools lack basic amenities and equipment such as classrooms, libraries, laboratories, workshops, and all of that, and that creates an unfavorable learning environment for children. Again, we have teacher shortages and quality. There's a lot of such shortages in our system, and they need a lot of training for improvement. Again, we have high cost of education. In Nigeria, government does not bear the burden of education for children, whether at the primary level to up to the tertiary level. Even though when you compare some other countries worldwide, some families are helped. Families are helped with basic education, which is from primary to secondary education. But here, families bear the entire cost of education for their children. And because of poverty, a lot of children are out of school. And particularly in the rural areas, Nigeria has the highest number of out-of-school children globally, and it's put at 18.3 million. At the primary level, we have 10.2 million children out of school, and at the secondary school level, it is 8.1 million by UNICEF. Of course, we also have the issue of exam malpractice, cheating, and irregularities, which undermines our education system, the credibility of our education system. Now, let's look at the youth. Who are they? Who are they? And let's define who they are, as the case may be. I define youth as youth is a period between childhood dependence and adulthood independence. UN and International Labour Organization define youth as persons between 15 to 24 years, without prejudice to member states' definition. However, in Nigeria, the National Youth Policy 2009 defines youth as persons between the age of 18 and 35 years. 18 to 35 years rather covers the period a young Nigerian undergoes university education from first degree to the third degree, which is the PhD. It also covers the age range of graduates of universities with, of course, like I've mentioned, with either first to second and to third degree. Again, this is the age at which this age speaks to the fact that Nigerian youth secure their first employment, the age at which they secure their first employment has increased, given the rate of unemployment and socioeconomic factors that is bedeviling them. Now let's look at characteristics of the Nigerian youth. In spite of the challenges that they have, the Nigerian government describes them as very ambitious, enthusiastic, energetic, promising, but at the same time, they're all vulnerable due to their challenging experiences. We have the largest youth population globally, and the population of our youth is put at over 60% who are under 25 years. Of course, this is a big demographic advantage and potential for economic growth. They are resilient and adaptive in spite of their challenges. They are culturally influential through music, fashion, and art. They are eager to learn and develop skills to fill the gaps of formal education, which includes skill acquisition, mentoring, and capacity building. They're also educationally ambitious. Every year, we know the number of students who graduate from secondary school and who are also seeking admission into tertiary institutions nationally, and it is quite a number. So they are very ambitious educationally. Again, there's a lot of brain drain among our youth these days, and many of them talented and professionals seek opportunities outside Nigeria because of the issues and challenges that they face here. Now, what are the effects of educational crisis on these children? The Nigerian education has multiple effects on the youth in the following ways. It limits their opportunity and disempowers them economically. The first and foremost thing is that there is a high rate of unemployment among the youth. The lack of quality education and relevant skills needed by employers, which they do not have, affects them, gives them, they then experience unemployment because they're not skilled, even though there are jobs available, but they're not skilled to fill those jobs. And again, underemployment, where you're a graduate and you see yourself in the informal market, working and being underpaid as the case may be. And for those of them who are potential entrepreneurs, they also lack startup funds to do that. They have limited critical thinking and problem-solving skills because poor quality education does not inculcate problem-solving and creativity among the youth. And critical thinking is an essential skill for navigating a complex world on a daily basis. There's increased vulnerability and social vices. Unemployed youth are susceptible to engaging in criminal activities, which is bedeviling Nigeria today. Substance abuse and other social vices due to frustration, lack of opportunities, and susceptibility to negative influences. There's also increased insecurity and instability for everyone and for the youth. They are susceptible to radicalization, and this is what we see, whether it is in the north, Boko Haram, headers, and all of those crises that we have there, and also down here in the south, where particularly the southeast, where we have the IPOB and all kinds of groups who are really quite violent, who are very, very, very at high risk of exploitation and recruitment by extremist groups, rather, who exploit their desperation and lack of opportunities. There's also social unrest. It causes social unrest and conflict. Large numbers of frustrated and disempowered youth can become a source of social unrest and conflict, particularly in regions battling with security challenges, as we experience in Nigeria today. Now, let's look at the education crisis and the Nigerian youth, even though it's done. The first thing that the education crisis we have in Nigeria hit the youth with is unemployment, even as I've mentioned it. NBS 2021 says, 23 says that 40% of university graduates are unemployed or underemployed. This is a big issue for Nigeria. 40% are unemployed or underemployed. They lack access to quality education. It causes poverty and economic hardship for them, as most of them can barely make their ends meet. That is why you see an NYPD in Nigeria define youth as people between the age of 18 to 35 years, because it is out of sync with the global definition. It takes the Nigerian child so long to become independent from the parents at the end of education, even with a PhD. It also causes a mental, it brings about mental challenges. Of course, poverty and unemployment contribute to youth mental health disorders. Sometimes they begin to question themselves, who are they? Are they really worth the while? They have learned helplessness and all kinds of issues. Of course, poorly equipped tertiary institutions also affect these graduates because it doesn't give them the needed skills for the job market. Of course, they have delayed transition to adulthood, prolonged dependency because they do not have jobs is a big issue for young children and for youth, as the case may be. And let's look at the, hold on. Okay, the way forward. I think there's something happened here. The way forward. Nigeria's current education system emphasizes theoretical knowledge over practical skills. It is certificate-based rather than competence or skill-based. Graduates lack skills demands of the labor market and skills for creating their own businesses. It is therefore imperative to rethink Nigeria's education system with a shift from certificates to competence in the following ways to empower young people and make them self-reliant. Number one, and the first reform we need to do, and the first rethinking we need to do is with our curriculum. So we look at curriculum reforms. The first thing we need to do is to get into skill-based learning. We need to move away from rote learning to acquisition of practical, vocational, and entrepreneurial skills, including technical skills, digital literacy, critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity across all levels of our education to combat the huge number of youth without functional skills. This is key. We need to reform our curriculum and make it skill-based. Like I said, 60% of Nigerian youth aged 15 to 24 lack functional skills in entrepreneurship, ICT, or problem solving, according to UNESCO 2023. So what is the point of going to school when at the end of it all, you don't have any skill that will help you to become self-reliant, as the case may be, and become empowered to be able to solve your economic issues and become independent? Then, relevance to industry. We need to establish strong links. Government and institutions, universities and higher institutions need to establish strong linkages between educational institutions and industry experts, employers and professional bodies to ensure that curriculum aligns with demands of the labor market. Because there's always a mismatch. Currently, young people face mismatch of their skills or their certificates or whatever they acquired with industry demands. The next thing we need to do is to integrate entrepreneurship education into our educational system at all levels. It should be made a core course in all departments at the university level, not just an elective as we see currently in the Nigerian educational system. Because when we make it a core course, it will help the lecturers and the students to understand that there are entrepreneurship, that means there are career pathways in every department, as the case may be, of study. Let's take botany, for instance. A student applied to study medicine, and he didn't get medicine, and then he was offered botany. When he goes into studying botany, for example, he will think that that his own is, that botany is not a worthwhile course. But if they understand that in botany, they deal with plants, and all the teas we use and all the herbs we use worldwide today, that people are now moving towards alternative medicine. That's it. They will then realize that this is a great course because they have an entrepreneurship opportunity in the course. So that is important, and that's why we think it is important to make entrepreneurship education as a core course in all departments at the university level. Then we should focus on practical skills like business management, financial literacy, marketing, and encourage innovation among young people. We should incorporate real-world case studies, simulations, and business plan competitions in the curriculum, as the case may be. And it is also important that within the curriculum, there's room for encouraging student-led initiatives and small-scale projects. Then there should be emphasis on TVET. It's important that we prioritize it, technical vocational education and training. We need to prioritize it because this is one place of study that offers children or young people skills, and this starts at the secondary school level. It gives them industry-specific skills, and it allows them and enhances their employability and gives them good job prospects, and this gives them a clear career path. I want to make an example with this TVET. When we were in the university, there was a young man called Obi. He was in a technical college. And then he will come into the university with his camera and take us photographs. Bring it back to us. We pay him, and he was just earning side money as a student. By the time he graduated, today he's a professional photographer. And that is exactly what we're talking about. Because when students undergo technical and vocational education training, it equips them with skills, touchable skills that they can use either to self-employ themselves or have employability opportunities. It's important to know that in Nigeria, even as we talk about TVET, that less than 5% of young Nigerians enrolled in TVET program. And if you compare it with what happens in other climes in the world, like Germany and South Korea, who have over 50%, then Nigeria have not scratched the surface. And research says that nations with strong TVET systems record low youth unemployment. The federal and state governments should establish and upgrade vocational and technical training schools and provide well-equipped workshops, labs, technology centers, and where possible, convert some traditional secondary schools to TVET schools. It's also important to focus on providing practical hands-on training and skills development relevant to specific industries and occupations. It's also important that we implement apprenticeship programs and on-the-job training in collaboration with industries. It's also important that we give them life skills, and it's important to incorporate essential life skills like communication, teamwork, self-management, financial literacy, as the case may be, to help this youth to navigate daily life effectively and contribute to their communities. Then the next thing that we need to focus on in rethinking our education is teacher training and development. It's important that we retrain our teachers and provide them with necessary skills and pedagogical approaches that is needed to deliver the revised curriculum we talked about, which includes entrepreneurship, vocational skills, and ICT integration. There's also need for teacher continuous professional development, as the case may be. And these teachers need opportunities to be updated at all times to the latest industry trends and best practices. There's also the issue of teacher welfare and motivation. It's important that the government improves salaries of teachers, their working conditions, and their career development opportunities to attract and retain qualified teachers. Then there's also need for teachers to have industry immersion, because as we're revising our curriculum, it's important that the teacher also revise or get to know, have more newer information on how to teach and the methodologies that they need to use to teach. And so they need industry immersion to be able to understand and feel and be a part of it, see how it goes, so that when they come back to the classroom, they will be able to teach appropriately in terms of practical experience in the industries. There's also need for infrastructure and resources. There's need for huge investment in infrastructure. It's important that government at all levels increases investment in educational infrastructure so that these children will have meaningful education that will make them self-reliant and empower them economically to become independent. It's also important that we provide them, that they be provided with learning resources such as textbooks, digital resources to support effective learning and teaching. There's need for technology integration so that government will help and ensure that there's technology integration, and teachers will use this technology to enhance teaching and learning and expand access to education and provide digital literacy. Assessment and evaluation. Like I said earlier on, our education is mainly focused on high stakes examination. We are certificate based, we are not competence or skills based. We need to move away from this and go towards continuous assessment methods that evaluate students' skills, competencies, and application of knowledge rather than relying on final exam. And this final exam can make or mar students. It's either you're promoted or you fail, and on and on. However, if we move on to competency-based assessment, it will help teachers. I mean, these students, their measurement and their evaluation and assessment will be based on performance task that is relevant to employment and self-reliance. Government should also engage stakeholders, and there's need for accountability and transparency in management of educational resources. The recommendations I made here is that number one, we should inculcate entrepreneurial mindset in children, in university undergraduates. Two, invite administrators and school authorities should invite successful entrepreneurs as guest speakers during entrepreneurship program. They should also collaborate with agencies concerned with entrepreneurship like National Office of Technology, Acquisition and Promotion, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency, SMEDAN, Raw Materials Research and Development Commission, Bank of Industry, and Central Bank for financial and technical support. They can also serve as resource persons during trainings, workshops, seminars, as the case may be for students. University establish relationship with companies that has youth entrepreneurship empowerment programs, such as in Nigeria, Tony Elumilu's foundation, who provides seed capital to the youth, and Dangote Academy, who also give them training. There should also be relationship with private sector organizations for student industry experience to bridge the theory gap between theory and practice. There's need for volunteer scheme for students where they can do that, need for internship, and on and on. Okay. Okay, it's also recommended that government at all levels should fund entrepreneurship education and graduates to use venture and put in policy, financial policy to support startups, such as tax incentives to venture capital and angel investors. Because yes, we are pushing and making sure that we want our children to come out and become entrepreneurs and be self-employed, as the case may be, but they need support. So there's need for government to ensure that capital is available for them through venture capital and angel investors and the rest of them. Okay. They should establish technical and vocational schools, promote apprenticeship, support school enterprises, utilize online blended learning, and that's it. So when we do all of these things and restructure the curriculum and the education system, it requires all hands, all stakeholders to be on deck, or to their hands to be on deck. Because when we help the students by providing them with the appropriate curriculum, appropriate skills, they'll be able to do we'll be able to empower them and make them self-reliant. And that will lead to a prosperous and peaceful society in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anika, for wonderful insights. I'd like to welcome a big one. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next speaker. I'd like to call on Associate Professor Kingsley Chinaza also.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, so I am presenting on a topic, school as scam, rethinking education through technology and economic empowerment to address Gen Z's disengagement in southern Nigeria. I am Kingsley Wilson from Educational Foundations. Maybe for the sake of our international partners and some other people that may not be conversant with the phrase school as scam. So this is just a popular phrase that we hear among adolescents and youths that I have, I have, yeah. So okay, I hope you can hear me there. So for those who are not conversant with the phrase school as scam, it's just an expression among our youths and adolescents that actually represent their frustration with the educational system, which simply translates in maybe more formal English. School is scam. So, but what we are trying to do is to see how we can rethink what we're doing and see if actually they can be engaged with what we're doing in classrooms. And that would be very important if you actually look at, because I want to just use them a kind of clip, where they actually poured out their hearts, depicting their frustration with the system. And that's in our second, I think it plays. Oh, wow. I'm coming up. I think it doesn't play. Well, let me get it from the system. I think it plays here. Okay.
Hello, hello, go and pay the money now. Others are paying. Last, school now scam. School now scam. Last, school now scam. School now scam.
Alaye Jimalosu, make you no go dey sleep o. Your G is the conscious sleep o. Make you no go dey goggle. Education no favor me, now why I use pattern? I can't dey get the best, make they use pattern. Pattern in logo best, make we use pattern. Make we get this money, make we buy the beamer. Oh, bad. Kapachi meru back, no be Satan, but I don't come like a dog. You don't see him. I been at the Titanic, you don't see him. Shipping at the Titanic, you don't watch him. I been a fast camp, they say I carry my brother.
Last, school now scam. School now scam. Last, school now scam. School now scam. If I be no go school, boy, he get banks. Last, school now scam. If you carry go school, self, you don't the banks. Say, last, school now scam. Last, school now scam. School now scam. Last, school now scam. School now scam. If I be no go school, boy, he get banks.
Okay, so that's just a clip of the way our youths think about the educational system. So they were just saying last at the end of the whole thing that school is just a scam, and there must be something that actually has led to that. And I was just reflecting why it is a problem here, and we don't even look at what is actually going on within the mind of our youth to know exactly what we can do. But I believe that with this kind of mindset, there will be little or nothing to be done until it is actually rooted out. As a matter of fact, we are talking about the radicalization. I think they should be deradicalized when it comes to this thought process that projects education as meaningless. So, and if you look at that, we ask ourselves, is education actually meaningless? Or get to realize that it's not actually true, that it's meaningless. Because if you begin to look at education, we see it from the point of view that it is an important tool for development. So if you look at what UNESCO Global Action Program on Education for Sustainable Development 2018 stated, we see education as leading to increase. They stated that increased educational attainment has positive correlations with poverty reduction, economic growth, health improvements, and reduction in child mortality rates. They also say each additional year of schooling strengthens individual earning potential by an average of 10%. Then at the national level, an increase in average school attainment by 1 year has demonstrated correlation to a 0.58% increase in national GDP per growth rates. It is also linked to improvement in civic participation, engagement in decision-making processes, greater political stability, and reduction in civil war. So both for the individual and as well the nation, there are benefits of education that when you begin to look at it, you discover that it's not something that will begin to look down upon. So these are the maybe importance of education that we can see regarding the individual as well as the nation. So, and we ask ourselves, how have the Gen Zs, our youth these days, because when we talk about the Gen Zs, these are actually many of them who are in the university now, in secondary school, and so on and so forth. Those of them who are born from year 2000 down now. So we are just looking at how have they actually evaluated education in Nigeria. From the clip, we discover that actually they pour their mindset. And if you go to S, you begin to see that and that's exactly what they believe education is. So for them, education is a scam, and that encapsulates their frustration and disillusionment with the educational system. It leads to, for them, it lacks the potential to address their real life problems. So they just ask questions: what am I going to do with this? And what you're projecting to us in classrooms? What's the essence of this to my life? So for them, it does not align with their future. Their future ambitions it looks like the educational system in Nigeria does not actually take that into consideration, and that leads to a kind of frustration. For them, it's just an old wine in a new bottle, just like what was taught in the 80s, 70s are also being repeated now, and they do not see maybe the essence of actually engaging in something that may not actually help their lives. So, what are the factors that could actually lead to this dissatisfaction with education? So the first one, just like the first speaker has actually indicated, there is increasing rate of unemployment. About 33%, 33.3% of Nigerian labor force are unemployed. So, and this is actually increasing day by day, and it appears that going to school in Nigeria does not actually solve the problem. So that becomes a problem. So if you graduate and there are people that have graduated up to 7, 8 years and they have nothing to do or something they're doing themselves. So that becomes destabilizing. And for them, when they look at education from that angle, they say it doesn't have meaning to them. Then again, there is also interest in non-conventional career paths among Gen Z in Nigeria. Yes. So because of the fact that maybe the failure of education has not actually has led them to be jobless, some of them will begin to look at careers that are not actually conventional. So we see content creation and digital entrepreneurship as alternatives to these youths. So there is also negative social media influence. Yes. So just look at the song that we played. Also go online, you discover where people are actually treating or teaching people, maybe fraudulent ways of making money. If you look at him, he said that, for you to get money now, you have to do some G. And Emeka will go school, is actually angry. And he who did not go to school is actually the person that is actually making money. So that's actually negative social media influence. So we have proliferation of alternative certificate programs and innovative and non-degree credentials. Yeah, actually, these days we, could actually lay hands on certificate programs that could actually help us secure some things that are actually meaningful. Even those who couldn't go to conventional university could get, maybe certifications on coding programs and so on and so forth. So, and that becomes very attractive to them. So the next one is a little bit of maybe corruption and moral decadence in our society. We have favoritism and nepotism in public appointments. And for them, when they begin to look at what goes on, within the public service and so on, so they will conclude that The certificate you have may not actually give you what you want. That it depends on who you know, and so on and so forth. So that becomes a problem for them, and that could lead to a kind of dissatisfaction with education. So, but if you begin to examine the Gen Zs, are there characteristics within Gen Zs that could actually lead to a kind of challenge, or can serve as a kind of challenge to current educational practices? And I must also note here that we don't begin to see Gen Zs as a homogeneous group here. But even though that we see a lot of them, mainly those who are living in maybe urban area, having similar characteristics. But we also know that maybe the features that define Gen Zs may not actually be found among some of them who are actually in villages or rural areas. But all the same, but we see some unique characteristics that could be attributed to them. So the first one is love for practical and real world problems or real world applications. So now for them, they love practical things. They like to, engage in skills and solve problems by themselves. So that becomes a kind of feature that could actually challenge what we do in our educational system currently, where most of the things we do is just theory and theory and theory. So that becomes a problem. So for them, they may not actually find it interesting for you to just keep them in classes because of one or two things you're going to read out to them. So they also know for multitasking and non-linear learning approach. But if you come down to our own education here, you discover that most of the things they do is just a kind of pattern. So we also see preference for self-directed learning and technology dependence. So these are features that we can see among our JZs, and that challenge that will challenge, what we do currently in our education. So now the realities of our current educational practices, there is a kind of disconnection from or misalignment with real world problems or skills. We have teacher-centered pedagogy where a teacher comes to the class and he stands before the kids, reads out whatever he has in his book and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter whether they learn or not, so to say. So for them, that's actually teacher-centered. So it doesn't actually lead to what we want to see in them. So inflexible assessment and skills evaluation. So here, just like the first speaker also pointed out, so we have inflexible way of assessing our students. So it must be that paper and pen. Then we have outdated and dilapidated infrastructure that could impact on the use of innovative approaches in teaching them. So we have lack of or inadequate technological skills by educators as well. Then we have weak industry education collaboration. So here you discover that the industry is on its own and the school is also on its own. So, and it doesn't give the Gen Zs what they need to survive in life. Then how do we rethink education in southern Nigeria to enhance engagement? The first one we begin to look at is just reshaping institutional cultures for student centeredness. So if you begin to look at our institutions, so the culture does not actually favor the learners, and it appears that it's just teacher centered. So we begin to reshape these institutional cultures so that it will reflect the needs and the developmental needs of the students. So this must be central to policies and practices in our educational system. So we must also emphasize employability opportunities in schools. Sometimes you discover that somebody will finish a particular program and he may not be able to say, look at what I'm going to do. Sometimes you engage with graduates and you begin to question, how they manage to actually graduate, because they may not be able to point out where they're going to work or where they should begin to look for job based on the skills they have actually acquired in schools. So we must emphasize entrepreneurship training and not just vocational skills. But what happens even in higher institutions is that emphasis is actually, for some of them that say they have started entrepreneurship programs, you discover that most of the things that are done there is just vocational skill, where students are being taught how to do bidding and so on and so forth. That's not actually what entrepreneurship education should be. It should reflect the capacity of somebody taking up the skill he has actually learned start up a business or a kind of vocation that will actually give him what he needs to survive in life. So the model of entrepreneurship in higher education and some even in secondary school reflects just menial job skills and so on and so forth. And we don't that shouldn't be the kind of things that Gen Zs want. So they question why is it that their grandmothers that did not go to the university could actually sew clothes, and after graduating from medicine and so on and so on, what you're teaching them as well in the university is also to sew clothes. So that's not actually the kind of entrepreneurship program they have. But I think we also have one or two universities that have models that emphasize, using skills learned in schools to start up businesses. So we also look at establishing business incubation centers, and this is very important, and mentoring programs. I think one southern university also has actually started this, where they try to bring ideas from students and see how they're going to use it to start up businesses and so on and so forth, and provide mentors who could actually lead them to utilize this pool of ideas so that they can start up businesses on their own. So we should build stronger school industry links to enhance employability. I think also that universities, secondary schools, and so on and so on should have programs that will have to integrate whatever that is obtainable in industries, within the university system and secondary school, where maybe they could actually be sent. Actually, we have some programs like that, but I think it could be stronger. We have programs where some students from sciences and so on and so forth are sent to um, um, industries to have 6 month program, but that's not actually where it should. I think even within the lecturers and so on and so forth, there should be a kind of interaction, a kind of link that will actually help them to build up employability skills among the students. So we should also create robust support services within universities, including career guidance centers. So, and this is also very important because sometimes you discover that most of these kids need direction on what to do, and we know that interest and motivation could change over time. So there should be that opportunity granted to them to support them even as they engage in their careers. So we should adopt flexible assessment practices and the student-centered pedagogy. That's very important, in which the child is actually put at the center of whatever that is being done in school. You use problem-solving method, collaborative learning method, approaches that will engage the students in the learning environment, in the learning process. So we should also try as much as can to infuse technology in teaching and learning. In short, as a matter of fact, I still say that if you teach a child or a Gen Z without integrating technology into what you're doing, I am thinking you are teaching him in another world. He just like he's existing in a very different setting, because you discover that most of the times they are spent, online and so on and so. So what we do is, what you should do, or universities and secondary schools should do, is to take these things to them online as well, and it will be actually interesting for them to engage in that. Um, Yes, if you look at that, the question in the subtitle of the topic is school a scam, but we say school is not a scam, but can be perceived to be when it fails to equip learners with appropriate skills to live and thrive in an ever-changing society. So what it means is that when school fails in their responsibility, or educators fail in their responsibilities, then students could say that the experiences in school are actually is a scam. But if actually they are equipped with skills and competencies that will enable them to survive in society, they can't perceive it to be so. So if we continue the way we are handling the way we are teaching them and the way they're being assessed, the kind of content, the kind of pedagogy, the kind of infrastructure that they have that led them to, have this kind of mindset. If we continue to operate at that realm, then it means that school will continue to be a scam to them. So teaching learners without considering their developmental milestones and changing needs is an effort in futility. So we need to actually rethink what we are doing so as to equip our students with capacities that will enable them to live in our society. I say thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kingsley Wonsu, for that wonderful insights. You have talked on so many things. I would like to move on to the next presenter, but I want to say that we are already running out of time. If you can, as much as possible, make your presentation very short. Dr. Obina Nachman, you are on for your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, the moderator. I'm Obina Nachuna from the Department of Edu Management and Policy. Greetings, everybody. Quickly, I would like us to. Okay. Briefly, I would like us to look at the issue of conflict resolution. Because in all our discussion here so far, you can testify to the fact that if our school environment, if our school system is devoid of rancor, tensions, strike sessions, and all that, you find out that the school will be more effective and therefore should be able to achieve the aims and objectives of the school system. However, find out that in everyday phenomenon, in everyday life, conflict is very, very inevitable. Very briefly, we are going to look at the place of conflict resolution in combating crisis among young people in Southeast Nigeria with a view to reimagining education for a peaceful and prosperous future. So many persons have tried to provide some theories regarding the concept of conflict in every life endeavor, most especially in the school system. One of such scholars is Karl Marx. In his theory of conflict, he postulated a lot of projections regarding conflict. One of such is that when he said that in every society, for the fact that you have people living in that particular environment, of course, there should be the presence of conflict in that environment. Because, like they said, wherever one or two are gathered, they must have conflicting ideas. They must have different opinions. They must have different values, and so on and so forth. And is that the society is made up of some subgroups who have conflicting values and interests. A lot of culture, people coming from different backgrounds, religious, social, cultural, and all that. The way a Muslim reasons to a particular issue may not be the same way a Christian reasons, may not be the same way a traditionalist will look at that same concept. And once that happens, conflict must occur. And in the school system, therefore, we have students, teachers, lecturers who are coming from different backgrounds, be it political, religion, cultural, and what have you. Another is that conflict occur because people are competing over limited resources. A typical Nigerian school found out that the resources, both financial, material, and even more human resources, are so limited that people so compete. Imagine when you have a class of 50 students and having only 30 seats for the students. Therefore, it's a survival for the fittest. If you come on time, can fight over who to sit and who not to sit. The same thing goes with some instructional materials not supplied in the right quantity and quality. When this happens, of course, the conflict is bound to occur. Some of the resources in the school system, for the classroom blocks, laboratories, libraries, the textbooks, You have about 100 students, competing, camping to make use of 50 apparatus, for instance, and 20 apparatus, for instance. Of course, these are the issues that can breed up conflict in the school system. Financially, the resources, we are not yet to meet up with the 26% as recommended by UNESCO for every nation to allocate to the educational system. And these create a lot of conflict in the school system. Of course, I've said poor remuneration of workers. Teachers are not well paid. Most of them, while coming to school, they engage in all kind of petty trading and all that, leaving the students as sheep without shepherd. The students bound to do whatever they like in the classroom because of the fact that their teacher, who are supposed to be teaching them right in the classroom, for the fact that their pay and what to write home about, they engages in so many other businesses in order to make up. So these are and many more are so many factors that can lead to conflict. Not forgetting the environmental factor, the school environment, so to say. So many times there are some chaos in the school environment leading to maybe during election period, union election, even some deans of faculty election, council election, and all that. This breeds a lot of conflict because these teachers, these lecturers, they try to form a clique, kind of implied political parties in the school system. And what is obtainable in the outside world also being obtainable in our school these days because of the fact that so many teachers belong to so many cliques, and this always manifests whenever there is any election in the school system. And all these and many other can lead to crisis in the school system. Therefore, conflict is inevitable because the school is a system that are made up of interdependent and interrelated parts. Whatever that happens in one, all things being equal, will affect the other. If the teachers are not in peace, students will never be in peace. And if the students are engaging in one form of tension or crisis or the other, of course, the teachers and the entire school system will not be at peace. Because the main reason why the teachers are in school are these students. So if there are conflict that exists among these students, of course, there will be no peace in that school. So what then is conflict? Conflict, without wasting much of our time, is a kind of a state of disequilibrium between individuals or group of persons for which a solution is desired. A state of disequilibrium, conflicting of interests and ideas that desired a solution. Wherever you see crisis, whenever you see conflict, of course, there is something that is begging for an answer. When two or more persons are not compatible, they share different views, different opinions regarding a particular idea or concept, of course, we can say that conflict is in existence. And this conflict, so to say, many people see conflict as something that is bad in its entirety. No, conflict can have both functional and dysfunctional effects. Talking about the positive and negative consequences of conflict. Can be that too little conflict can lead to apathy and lead that in the school system. If one or two persons have not quarreled over some certain issues, some certain resources, it shows that something is not very right. Because for many a times, you find that conflict can bring about an impetus for change and innovation. If, for instance, students are scrapping and competing to raise a particular resources, it shows that that resources from the outset was never provided in its right quality and quantity. And therefore, if two students should be struggling over who to use their resources, it means that there is a room for improvement. There is a call for a solution. And that solution is provide adequate resources to avoid these two individuals competing to use such a resources. So many other times you have some confrontations and all that they bring about changes in the school system. However, conflicts have dysfunctional effects, of course, and that is if it's not well controlled, can lead to many vices in the school system. Conflict in terms of wars, tension, destruction of school properties, and all that has so many negative effects that time will not permit us to espouse. But however, our own is to find out innovative ways to resolve, to try to eliminate these conflicts to the barest minimum so that the school can achieve its goals without any kind of tension, rancor, or confrontations in the school system. Conflict resolution simply means the reduction of or elimination, termination of all forms and types of conflicts in the school system. There is need, therefore, for the school management, the society at large, to think of resolving these conflicts, bringing in new ideas, or reinterpreting the already ideas regarding conflict resolution. A lot of things have been done and said in the past trying to resolve conflict. However, it seems as if these strategies and all that are not enough towards resolving these issues, and therefore there are so many innovative ways towards resolving conflicts in the school system so that this young one can have a better mindset, so that this young one can live peacefully. Because one thing is sure, in the school system, we are not only training students to do well academically and all that, we are also trying to inculcate a high level of discipline among these students. And if they are not at peace, of course, their character will nothing to write home about. One of the factors, one of the strategies that we can use to resolve this conflict is what we call workforce diversity. While recruiting teachers, you'll be able to make sure that these teachers are coming from different background, different age, sex, and color, and all that. Let these students be grouped into a house system, give them tasks together in houses, apply the integrity awards, whereby you give some recognitions to students who have demonstrated a strong moral principles and all that. Let peace education be included in our curriculum, and of course, get the community to be part of the school resolution of conflicts. Let the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, the parents, and all whatnot to join hands together towards resolving this issue. The student unionism should also be involved. Let there be a revamp in the structure of these students' unions. Teachers should have a collaborative environment whereby teachers will have a network to work together as a team. By so doing, we find out that conflicts, because one of the areas, one of the key points of resolving the conflict is to prevent that conflict from taking place at first instance. Because conflict don't just happen. There are latent and perceived conflict and all that before you come to the manifestation of the conflict. And undoubtedly, if these strategies are being put in place, we should be able to have at least a school that these conflicts are so minimal that they can live in unity and be able to achieve the state goals of the school system. I think I have to end here. My time is up. Thank you for listening. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anna, for managing the time very well. I would like to start with you, Dr. Christy Odumebu. You have listened to the various presentation. Professor Impa talked about the challenges in the school system. Dr. Wosu talked about school and scam, and now he just told us the conflict in school system. Now, in all of these, what are your thoughts as regards young people?
Hello, Professor Christie. Sorry, you must please open your microphone because we can't hear you. Can you hear me, please?
Sorry? Thank
Yes,
you,
now.
Dr. Monye. I thank our presenters for the very insightful presentations they've made, quite elaborate. Um, one thought was just going through my mind as I was listening to them. I think the central thing I was able to draw from their presentations is the problem of quality, issue of quality. And when I talk about quality, I see quality as fitness for purpose. Fitness for purpose. Prof talked about self-reliance. The goal of our education is to make the graduate self-reliant, to contribute to the society, to make meaningful contribution, to build a very strong manpower or human resource for the economy. But when you find that at the end of the day, the graduates are not able to become self-employed and are not even employable, you discover that it's a matter of quality. It means that the education we are offering them does not fit the purpose for which we set out, we marked out for education. So also when we talk about education as a scam, for the youth, the education is taking them nowhere. The education is not fit for the purpose. So when we talk about, and for me, when we talk about the basic problem of that poor quality of education we offer our youth, one thing that comes to my mind is the issue of corruption. Although Nigeria has not met the target for UNESCO target for funding for education, I think the basic problem we have is that what we have is not being utilized. So if you move it up from at the national level, you come down to the universities, you even go down to the high schools, that the story is the same. So for me, it doesn't look like there is a way out for the lecturer there, for the student there, and for most of us. It appears to be bleak, because if we begin to point it out, we begin from the source of the water. The source is very bad, and then it trickles down to the rest of the tributary. So what do we do at our own level? Because that's what you're going to ask yourself. When I talk about recommendation for the government provide funding, government provide infrastructure, government do that, and government do that, it appears that people have become so exasperated at what is happening. So I ask myself, what contribution can I make as an individual? As I'm an outsider, perhaps this is the first time an outsider is coming to this program, and I take from the perspective of the outside. I'm not going to be very. I'm going to be very frank with my fellow participants here and resource persons. So I'm going to be frank with you. I ask myself, what contribution can I make as an individual? I said, I'm going to bracket out that particular area, which is mine, and try as much as possible to make my own impact. When we talk about, I want to bring in the role of technology there. Technology has allowed us to move beyond our environment, beyond about the limitations of what our teachers can give us, beyond the teacher-centered education, beyond we are no longer institution bound. We are in a world, we are free. You go to the YouTube, you can virtually learn every skill there. You go to these things are at our beck and call now. So for us as a teacher and as those whom the youth look up to, we should begin with ourselves to effectively appropriate technology for ourselves, to be able to move beyond what our immediate environment can offer us. So I'll use myself as an example. I did my program online university Master of Research in Social and Educational Research in the University of London. I'm sitting at the comfort of my home. When I began that program, I told myself, I discovered that I found myself at I think I have an inability to think beyond the paper, to write, just produce what the lecturer has given me. And I was told, you have to be very creative, you have to move beyond this point. So moving that beyond this point, I had to tax myself, I had to get resources from those that I could not find around myself. And I think I was able to move beyond that which I was offered at my first degree and at my master's degree, which was got locally here. So I want to offer us the challenge of taking up this mantle of not looking up to the government for us to provide infrastructure, provide this, and let's appropriate what we can get from the technology around us and expand our frontiers as both lecturers and our frontiers as students. And while we are doing that, we do that intentionally, mindfully, knowing that there is a purpose for technology, and that is for our development and the betterment of our society. I think this is what I just have to offer within the time frame given to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Christie. That was a good one. And before we continue, I would like to call on Professor Becky, if you have anything to say to us, if you can make it very brief. Thank you, because we're already out of time.
Hello, Professor Becky, you need to please open the microphone. We can hear you now. Could you please open the microphone? I don't know if you are hearing us. We cannot listen you. You need to look for the symbol of the microphone at your screen, and then you... Okay, so I think now it's not connected. So, Chinenye,
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't know if you want to continue with...
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
Okay.
I got some question here for Professor Anyekwa.
Okay, so I'm going to share the screen with all of the professors, okay? In order to see all of you. But please, Chinanya, you need to open your microphone.
Yeah, sorry about
Ah.
that. I was saying that there's a question from one of the participants who asked that, according to him, the school, should prepare someone to be mentally, emotionally, and otherwise to become self or employers of labor. So, what's your reaction to that, Professor Anyekwa?
I agree completely, but there are issues. Okay, now we're talking about moving away from get a job to creating a job mentality. Okay, yes, and that's what everybody's talking about even today. We are thinking of rethinking our education. Yes, it's important that school does that, that education does that. However, there is a limit to what education can do. Education can give you the skills, give you the confidence and all of that. Give you the mentality, so to speak, that yes, you can. Certainly the students can. But what do they start with? There's need for startup funds. There is need for angel investors. There's need for, I agree with that completely. And that's why we said, like when you are talking, speaking, you mentioned that, yes, we will start from immediately within what we can do. But there's still a limit to what you can do. Assuming a child is a potential entrepreneur, while he was in school, he had businesses and so on and so forth. But when he graduates and he wants to expand, where does he get the money from? We still need the government to come in. We still need the school, and the universities should also liaise with private sector. There are many companies in Nigeria who get into entrepreneurship in helping students, empower them, and give them seed capital and give them training at the end of the day. But at the same time, there are some companies who are not yet, and we know that in this our southeast area, we have quite some big successful entrepreneurs whom we can talk to within the school system to help with seed capital, or what you call startup funds for students. So it is a possibility, but there's work to be done to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you very much for that. There's another question here. I will address it to Dr. Was someone asked if students see education as a scam, who is to be blamed? And again, I add, how can this conception amongst young people, how do we deal with this conception that school is scam? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. As a matter of fact, as I was also going through the thread, I discovered that there are also some even lecturers who agree that school is a scam. So now I intentionally went through the thread, and I see that. So what happens is that school, as a matter of fact, is not a scam. Yes. Schooling, just going to school is different from being functionally educated. So what schools should start is just like a vessel through which a child will be functionally educated. So when a child is given functional skills, then you discover that he's not going to have a problem. That perception wouldn't have actually come up there. So the perception came up as a matter of fact that there is a kind of discrepancy between what the child expects and what actually comes up there. As a matter of fact, you could also recall that this is just a strange, maybe phrase that began to show up in 2019. So you could be able to me that that's not actually what school is. But there is a way to also handle this. If schools could change the pattern of the things they do, just like Prof said, I know of University of Medical Sciences, London. They have a mentorship business venture incubation center where there are mentors like Tony and others. You see them as mentors. They come in there. What they do, their own entrepreneurship is not just let's come out and do some beats and so on. No. Their own entrepreneurship was bringing the ideas, that can launch, that can be used in businesses and so on and so forth. So when they bring it, you see these entrepreneurs helping them to fine tune it, and some of them are being sponsored, and that's why there are one series of grants from British Council, regarding entrepreneurship and so on and so on. So we can bring that down, to equip, our students, so that they will have that kind of, competencies that will actually help them to begin to start up something. School must equip somebody with the skill that help him to survive. Or if not, what's the sense of school? If you stay in the university for 1, 2, 3 years and you can't use the idea you have actually secured in the Ghana the university to make money, I bet you have wasted your time. That's what I don't believe, and that's what I tell people. So no matter the course you're doing, English language, learn to write, be creative. There are people who are waiting online for you to write for them and so on. So try to tell these kids, look at opportunities here, look at what you can do at this point in time. So they will fire as much as they can to fit into these opportunities. I think by so doing, we won't see people like this come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. We already out of time, but before we go, I would like to, I don't know if Professor John Ondie is still with us, if he would want to say something, and very quickly. Thank you.
Yeah. Listen.
Professor Ondi. Veronica, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Okay, so I think that we have collect a lot of interest comments, but also a lot of interest information that you all, the speakers, has given to us. So we are very grateful with all your information, with all of your work, and I want to give you thanks from the University of Alicante, but also from part of the UNESCO chair. Once again, thank for all your participation, and if you want to stay update to these activities or maybe to another ones, you can join our community or you can look for our website on the internet to join all of the activities promoted by the Cathedra, but also in contact with all of you. We hope to see you again in future activities. And Tinenye, if you want to share anything more with us, we are delighted to have you here today.
Yes, thank you so much, Veronica, and thanks to all our speakers for your insightful contribution, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Hope to see you in next activities.
Thank you.
Right.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Yeah.
Bye. Night
Bye.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Bye.